Gaby Wilson for MTV News, and I'm here with Kelela. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
You look beautiful.
Thank you so much.
How was your set earlier today?
It was incredible, actually. It was like magic hour.
Right.
Everyone seemed to be really,
yeah.
everybody seemed to be really present. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other day, you dropped a trailer for All It Took. Talk to me a little bit about that, what fans can expect from that.
It's a film that my friend Wu Tsang made. They're an incredible filmmaker, and it's just sort of a peek into my process in general, but specifically with this particular record.
Mm-hmm.
So with Take Me Apart, my latest effort, it's she just followed me for a long time. And she's somebody I've worked with, years ago. So she had a screen test from like 5 years ago. So she's been around me and sort of seen my process. And there's a lot of stuff that just has to do with my experience in the world. But yeah, it's a really beautifully put together, just sort of peek into like how I'm doing this.
So it's a bit like a documentary of the making of Take.
Yeah, it's a making of type of documentary, but it's not so literal, I guess.
Cool.
But yeah.
That's awesome. When can fans expect to see the full length?
Very soon. I don't have a date, a specific date, but
Before the end of the year?
Yes, for sure. For sure before the end of the year. I'm really excited to share.
Nice. Well, there were 2 years between Hallucinogen and Take Me Apart. What did taking that time between, how did that inform the writing process of
well, I think on one hand, I just needed to live life. I just need to experience life because that's what I write about. So, yeah, there was that, just having experience happen enough to have stuff to write about. But then also just in terms of, easily and clearly conveying my ideas, just the confidence that you have to sort of develop to even know what you're trying to say, and then to sort of direct it in a really meaningful way. So that was, part of it. And then just like when I don't know, for me it was about making something new, making something that felt like it sounded new, but also resonant on some level. So, treading that line and what's the word, sort of straddling, challenging and resonant.
Right.
Is
something that feels like
takes
integral
time
to what fans know and love about you.
Exactly.
But still pushes you further.
Exactly.
I like that you bring
stuff that's
up,
uncomfortable for me.
Yeah. I like that you bring up that it feels new, because a lot of the conversation about the album has been about how it pushes the whole genre of R&B forward. What do you think about that reaction? Is that crazy to hear people say that?
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I haven't really heard that so much, but it's really, I don't know, it's really heartening to think that, I don't know, that it's resonating in that way.
Yeah.
Because you can have those intentions when you make something, but like whether it will land or not is a whole nother thing, and I think, I've seen so many people be heartbroken about how something's being received, juxtaposed to how they meant it or where they were coming from. Right. And I've just tried not to sort of be attached to how things are received, but that is one of the best
why you haven't
things.
Seen that, because every review.
Well, that's a really beautiful thing. Yeah, it means so much. It means a lot. I think I am simply just trying to contribute something that maybe just hasn't been said. I've just always veered away from things that I feel like, well, maybe that's just redundant. I have to do more work. I wouldn't rush it just to put something out. I'd have to really make it feel urgent for myself in that sense.
Yeah. In what ways did you challenge yourself on this album?
On the songwriting, on the vocal performance, on the sort of production, just how many types of sounds I was looking to sort of integrate. Literally every single part, when it comes to the lyrics, wanting to make sure that every single lyric is something that is empowering to sing, even in the most like disempowering situations, or like, you know, things that might feel sad, or just, you know, might hurt, but talking about them in a way that helps you move through it rather than sort of sit there.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of this will be answered by All It Took, but that sounds like a really meticulous sort of creative process. Would you say that that's true?
It is, and that is sort of why it took so long. I found out that, you know, I take 2 to 3 months to mix. That's how long I need.
Yeah.
Because for me, mixing and production is a blurry line. For so many of the producers that I work with, the line between produced and mixed is just so mushy that it's just hard to say, you know, there's so much change that happens last minute right before we're about to master. So that's just something about my process that's like sort of imbued in the sound.
Got it. So you sit with something for like a really long time, do you?
I think I won't ever be this long again because that was my first record, you know? So I think that there's something that happens once you've done it a few times. But yeah, I guess I probably take longer than most people.
I mean, I think it's worth the wait.
Whatevs.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's definitely worth the wait.
Thank you.
In what ways do you think that you've grown from this project?
So many ways.
Really like feel like,
I mean, as a person, you know, on the one just like basic level, just grown to be feeling more confident about what I think, that it is sort of valid, and that I guess how to convey it clearly so that people really understand it. I've just sort of, I don't know, put myself out there, I guess, in ways that were uncomfortable before, and that helps everything else. But then I feel like more comfortable vocally. I feel more comfortable with my sort of aesthetic sort of choices and sort of inclinations. There's so many things that have changed over time, but I think that, you know, those are things that happen as humans over time.
Totally.
But I think that when I'm as somebody in this position, it sort of, I don't know, it creates an urgency.
I imagine a lot of that comes from like keeping the creative process pretty like a very tight circle. Like, you don't have any features on this album, and I feel like you work with a lot of like the same people. That's pretty rare, I think, in today's music industry.
I would say that it's pretty rare for vocalists to have like a producer crew. I would say that that's like just something that's not happening so much.
Yeah.
There are producer crews, and then there's like vocal groups, but there's usually like a pretty tense relationship between the vocalists and the producers, or the heads and the vocalists. So, you know, I've always felt like a head, and so that's how I've gotten into this.
Right.
And I'm a singer. I happen to be a singer, so that is really how it goes, you know.
How do you think like keeping such a tight circle contributes to the art that you make?
It makes I think that it creates a pretty specific sound. You know, it can sound very insular, you know, across a bunch of songs. I can create an entire world because I work with like a bunch of producers in a world, you know, so there's a way that you associate their music with mine because that's just, we're sharing, you know. So it definitely just affects it on a basic level, you know, just in terms of the sound, you know. There's a cohesiveness, and yeah, I would say that that's probably the thing that's the most pronounced. I work with other people outside of that crew, you know, but it sort of creates like the basis of the sound and the approach.
And it helps to affirm that too.
It does, you know, it anchors.
Two of your biggest influences on this album, I heard, were Janet Jackson and Björk. How do they manifest? Like, what were you pulling from each?
I guess it's really in retrospect that I can say that. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I'm not like I gotta make a Björk track or
Sure.
I gotta make a Janet track. I'm more just, it's like in it, the reference for when I find myself in the middle of the song trying to sort of make it come to life. I am referencing things that I didn't even know I was obsessed with, if that makes any sense.
Got it. Yeah.
So
they're just like so ingrained in you.
they're ingrained
and now,
in me.
Like,
They're like,
with hindsight.
I'm like, you know what I mean? Like in this song.
Yeah.
You know, it's like basically, it's like if.
Right.
You know, and there's a bunch of things that sort of, you know, are implicated.
Right.
You know, when, or implied when you say that. But yeah, that happens so many times. So it's more abstract. For Janet, I would say that it's the sort of marriage between her and Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, and sort of the sound that they created together. There's a really musical thing going on. It feels really interesting. For like my sort of benchmark has always been that a jazz musician would want to play my songs, or would find them like fun to play.
It's musically interesting.
It's musically interesting. So it's very musical stuff.
Yeah.
But then the production was also sounding like, what is this? You know, and really industrial and all of these things. You know, so there's that intersection. So it's really abstract. That's kind of the thing that I always came up with Janet. And then with Björk, there's just like, I mean, there's like an approach to like vocal performance, crispness, and sort of clarity and delivery. And then in the production, obviously, there's strings. There's the intersection of like electronic music and strings, I think, quite specifically, is one of the things that I have always been touched by. And so that came through as well.
That's awesome. That's very cool. It's really cool to hear you like go really like sort of nerdily about your music. No, it's like, because it's great. It's like you are able to pull the curtain back on how these songs that a lot of people listen to and connect with on a lyrical level are also interesting on a musical level. Yeah.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Besides All It Took, what is up next for you?
What is up next? I am leaving on a bus this evening for a U.S. tour, so that is most immediately up next. Most of the shows have sold out. I think it's Portland, Detroit, and Houston that
so
still
shouts
have.
to those cities you can
Yeah,
still
you guys can still
have
get tickets. Yeah, so that's what's up next for me, and then in January I'll be going to Australia with the XX.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That should be really fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be really good. I'm excited.
What can fans expect from a Kelela show?
Well, for me, it's always been about the intersection of like a DJ'd set, something that feels very electronic in terms of the sound and the quality of the track. You know, the way that it sounds in your car, really being conveyed live, and it not being compromised or sort of interpreted through instruments, live instruments. And then finding the intersection between that and something very, very musical and very organic. So the way that I convey that is through background vocals and keys. So it's sort of this hybrid sort of band situation that for me is very Kelela.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so
Thanks
much for
by.
having me. I
Braving
appreciate
the
it.
cold.
Thank you. It is very cold.